In this tutorial, I will show you how to download and use the Clone Modifier plugin by i2software. First, go to the i2soft.com website and find the Clone Modifier download. Click on Download to download the modifier into your Downloads folder. Once you have downloaded the modifier, you may need to extract the file, which you can do by clicking Extract All. Click on the extracted folder and then click on Clone, and then choose a version that matches your 3ds Max. So mine is 2020, and then you've got your DLM file. In another window, go to your C drive, then click on Program Files, Autodesk, 3ds Max 2020, and then go to Plugins. So this is where you can then drag and drop that DLM file into this file. Click Continue. Now to make sure that the modifier appears, make sure you close your 3ds Max and restart. Once you've restarted 3ds Max, draw an object in the viewports and then go to the Modify panel, click on the drop down arrow and type Clone, and make sure that Clone appears. So here's your downloaded modifier. So we might go back and modify our box. So under the Modify panel, if you select the box in this window, we might change the sizing of the box. So for the length, I want 1 meter. For the width, I want 1 meter. And for the height, I want 1 meter. So that turns it into a square. Next, we'll go back into the Clone modifier, and I'll take you through this modifier step by step. So the first option is the number of clones you want to have. So originally this will be set to 0. So you'll just have your, it'll be set to 1. So you'll just have your, no, it should be set to 0. Nope, set to 1. So this will be the amount of clones that you want. So maybe to start with, we'll set it to 5. So that means that there's 5 clones now at the space where you have your cube. Under displacement, you have 3 options, and this is displacing in the X, Y, and Z directions. So if we increase the X dimension to 1 meter, it means that they'll spread out 1 meter. So if we have 1.5, that gives a 500 mil gap between each cube. If we want to see the effect that the Y has, we can start to adjust this. So if you said 0.5, it'll start to displace them in the Y direction. And then if we want to do the Z direction as well, then it'll also start to displace them in that direction. So we'll just reset that back to 0 and 0 and leave the X at 1.5. The next option is rotate. So again, there's the X, Y, and Z direction. So if we start to rotate in the X direction, we can see that it rotates around the X axis. We'll set that back to 0. If we go in the Y, you can see that it starts to rotate around the Y axis, which is this one here. And we'll set that back to 0 again. And then in the Z axis, you can see that it starts to rotate around there depending on what you set it at. Scale is the next option. So in this, you can increase or decrease the scale. So the further away from the original source, the lesser or bigger you can make it. So that's in the X direction. If we set that to 1, it'll be the scale that we originally had. You can also do it in the Y direction. So the further away it is from the source, it'll get larger. And then if we go again, set it to 1, and we go in the Z direction and start to make it look like a bar graph. Set that to 1 again. Our next option is under transform is random displacement. So if you click apply, then we can increase the random displacement in the X, Y, and Z values again. So if we say in the X direction we want to randomly displace by 0.5 meters, you can see that the displacement then is randomized within kind of the 0.5 kind of setting. If we then go in the Y direction and say we want it by 1 meter, that means it will randomly displace within the 1 meter kind of boundary. And if we reset that and again go in the Z, maybe we'd say we want it by 5 meters, it will randomly displace the objects within 5 meters of the origin. So we'll reset that, and the next transformation that we can do is random rotation. So we'll click apply, and this means that you can rotate from a certain degree to a certain degree. So if we go from 0 to 360, we can see that it randomly rotates the cubes. Just as another example, we'll go to 90 degrees, and there you can see that between 0 and 90 degrees, the cubes are randomly rotated. We'll reset that to 0 and untick. The next one is random scale. So as you can guess, this randomizes the scale of the cubes between the percentage that you choose. So if the minimum you want is 10% of the original cube size, and then we go to 100 and 50%, you can see that with the width, it has started to randomly assign a certain width within those numbers. We can also do this to height. So if we say 10% and again 150%, it randomizes the height of the cubes. So I think you can just untick apply and it'll get back to your original form. Now, I haven't been able to get any results from using the random material ID, and I've searched for any bugs or anything like that and haven't been able to find anything, which is unfortunate. The random seed, I'll show you what that does. So say we've got a random scale, every time you choose a different number for the random seed, it changes the computer's algorithm to come up with a different randomization. So used together, some of these tools can be quite powerful. So we've done the displacement, but if we include a rotation as well as the displacement in the Y, starts to, and then we play with the scale as well, you start to get some quite varied results. We can rotate. And if we add more clones, we start to get some pretty amazing shapes happening. So again, the randomization, you can choose how randomized it is. Or what direction it's going in as well. And then if you turn that off, you get back to your basic forms. You can randomize the rotation, randomize the scale. So it's quite a powerful modifier, and it's good because it's parametric and you can kind of change anything as you go. Which is pretty great. We'll just hide the box. So the clone tool can be applied to any object. So if we drew a sphere and go to the Modifier panel, drop down menu and type clone, you can see here that we can clone the sphere. So we'll increase the number of clones and then we'll displace it by 10 meters. And then you can see that you can apply the same type of thing to the spheres. So we can go in the X direction and Y, Z. You can reduce the scale, increase the scale. You can see they're getting smaller as they get further away from the origin. And you can also apply all the randomized things as well.